Okay, hi. So it's not uncommon at the beginning of the year to dedicate time specifically for prayer and fasting. And the concept is like a first fruits idea. We give God the first fruits of our year, He blesses the rest. That's the concept. The idea of first fruits is all throughout Scripture, from our tithe, livestock, back in the day when people had livestock, grain, bringing it all in. He says, bring me the first fruits. I believe it's in Leviticus or Deuteronomy. But either way, this concept of first fruits is throughout, and this is kind of the idea of giving God the beginning of the year. And so I'll be stepping into a fast January 1st through 21st. I want to invite anybody who feels led to join me in a time of prayer and fasting. Also complementary to this, Pastor Mike will be speaking at the beginning of the year on being set apart and being a consecrated people. A people who's basically marked by God for God. This idea of consecration, being reserved for Him, which is something we step into with our will to create boundaries around our life for what we do, what we don't do, why we do it, etc. So a time of prayer and fasting is a time of increased intentionality in our focus on the Lord and in crucifying the flesh. So we give up something and we give God more. That's the basic premise of a time of prayer and fasting. So those times of fasting can look very different. And there's times when a community of faith will all do a very similar type of fast. Maybe it's fasting food, and they'll all do it for a certain time frame, and that's great. It's I've done those with a community before, this time of fasting and prayer, I'm not necessarily calling on everyone to do the same kind of fast, but to go before the Lord and ask Him what He would have you to do during this time of prayer and fasting. What He would have you give up and how He would have you give Him more. So along with this is this concept of crucifying the flesh. Fasting is a really great way to do that. When you're not eating food, your flesh doesn't like that. Your flesh isn't satisfied. It's easier to get in a bad mood or get irritable or whatever. And it's a challenge to the flesh. And it's in that challenge that we can go, okay, Lord, I trust in You. I'm depending upon You. My sustenance comes from You, right? And not from our flesh and our fleshly desires. In these times of prayer and fasting that are individual to the people joining in, some people will fast media or entertainment, social media, certain things that they enjoy doing. These things usually aren't bad things per se or wrong things, but they're just things that maybe we enjoy. It helps us to feel satisfied or entertained, or help us to detach at the end of a day or whatever. So to give you a specific example from myself in this time of fasting, I asked the Lord, and I believe the Lord told me to my primary focus of this fast will be giving Him my evenings. So the evenings for me, most of the time in kind of regular non-fasting life, is a time where I like to eat snacks and maybe watch something on TV, watch a movie, and just kind of chill. And nothing particularly wrong with that, but it's a time that I have reserved kind of for myself, and the Lord is saying, give Him that time. And so that's one of the primary focuses. I'll be fasting some other things in different times, and there's different parts to it, but the main thrust for me will be give God my evenings. So instead of snacking and just having entertainment, I'm going to be spending time in prayer, the Word and worship in the evenings. And so that for me is what I felt like the Lord was calling me into. So for you, I would encourage you just to go before the Lord and say, Lord, what do You have me do in this time? What do You want me to give up? And how do You want me to find more time that I can give specifically to You in the Word, in prayer, and in worship? I do want to encourage you too, if you've never fasted food for any length of time, again, ask the Lord what He would have you do, but I would encourage you to try fasting food. Even if it's just a sunset fast, which would be fasting from sunrise to sundown, or 24-hour, 36-hour. really want to encourage you, any kind of a long fast, like over 5 days, definitely ask the Lord and say, make sure that He's calling you into that. But if He is, then just say yes. And one of the last things I'll say is whatever He tells you to do, do it. Also, there will be a grace that comes with that. If it's giving up food or entertainment and you think, man, how can I not eat for whatever period of time? Or how could I not, watch my shows that I like to watch? He will give you a grace in your obedience. He always does. I remember the first time the Lord called me into a longer fast, I was pretty nervous about it. And then I realized days kept going on and I wasn't eating any food and I wasn't dead. And I was able to still function in life. And I was like, wow, the Lord has been so gracious and He's really designed my body to be able to not eat food and survive. So it's pretty amazing. There's some things that you can experience just by crucifying that flesh and being really uncomfortable. So again, for me, I'm starting January 1st through 21st. And the Lord's kind of given me my specifics of what I'll be fasting. So I encourage you to do the same. And then also during this time, if you want to talk, communicate with me, you can text or group me or see me at church. Let me know what the Lord is speaking to you or doing in you. And this will be a broader community thing in the church as Pastor Mike starts teaching on this and encouraging us to be prayerful about this. So I just want to invite you into it if you feel led, and God bless.